This is a group of juvenile maxima, but most people can't see it, because he loves to sleep. She ate twice as much as the other yards, but it was only half their size. He was rejected from an early age. At the age of 6 months, he was given a horse trainer by the farmer to train, and the man thought that he was a blue horse. He whipped him fiercely every day, but the stick education could not force out his potential, and the result was that the biscuit was used as an outcast, that is, to accompany the running code, specifically to accompany those who people felt that there was more potential for the Marseille run. His knights will deliberately force him to lose, thus stimulating the confidence of other racehorses. At the age of 3, High Biscuit participated in 2 cheap auctions every week, was humiliated and beaten, and his temper became irritable, and everyone thought that he had no medicine to save, so he was sold at a low price of 2,000 yuan. This is actually quite reasonable. You see the champion, tall, smooth coat color, High Biscuits are only 1 meter 5, scarred. He suffered for years until an obscure horse trainer, Tom Smith, noticed him, who was most familiar with life, and the first time he saw it, he immediately asked his boss to pay for it. Including believing in Tom's eyes, he bought Seabiscuits. However, Tom found many jockeys, but none of them could resist the Seabiscuit. Everyone said he was a crazy horse so unruly, and Tom also had a headache. Until he noticed another unruly soul guy, a man who was wrestling with 4 enemies, that unrecognizable temperament, wasn't it the same as the deep sea biscuit? Tom knew he had found the best man to master the sea biscuit, and sure enough, Xiaohong and the sea biscuit were the same. He used only half an apple to calm the biscuit's anger. However, when Xiaohong ran on a cookie for the first time, he ran left and right and ran in a snake shape. No, it turned out that the biscuit had been beaten since childhood, and had been smoked and run in circles, forming a habit of pain. Tom said she was smoked into a tool. But I forgot that I was a horse. To remind him of his instincts, he took the sea biscuits to a grove of trees and let the little red flag run hard with him. So, the sea biscuit drove Xiaohong all the way to the meadow between the jungles, from the grass to the stone bridge. He was not tired, but the pace was getting faster and faster, lighter and lighter, just like the strength that had been suppressed for several years. 1,000 miles, the old couple waited for almost an hour. The 2 guys still did not return. Far away, Xiaohong smiled happily, because he knew that what drove him was not a mediocre person, it was a real maxima. A small team of 3 people gradually took shape, and they moved to their wife's farm together, ready to start training. But the old goods were soon discovered. At night, the rooms prepared for them are empty, Xiaohong said. Entering the stables, Tom stayed under the tree. These poor people are accustomed to suffering, accustomed to the land, and for their lifelong hard bones, the soft bed is as loose as quicksand. Speaking back to the sea biscuit, this guy is virtuous, and old was stable conditions are so favorable, he also hates it and hisses continuously. In order to make the cookie docile, Tom looked for a docile mare everywhere, a docile mare, and a small yellow dog to cook, so that the cookie was not so lonely and panicked. Unlike cookies, Tom the horse trainer asked Xiaohong not to whip the cookie hard when racing. And let it go in the second half and let it run freely. During training, they gradually discovered the fighting talent of hepatitis C. When he runs by himself, he is as slow as an old cow, but when he sees his opponent, wow, he will shoot out like an arrow, and he must outperform others. The first time Biscuit went off the court, it broke the track record. Soon, they had their first game. Before going on the court, Tom carefully explained the strategy, so that Xiaohong must be patient and follow the final sprint stage such as the winning hot code to catch up. However, after the game began, when Xiaohong's biscuit was squeezed by a strange hand, the brute force in Xiaohong's personality exploded, and the crazy twitch code chased up. Constantly squeezing the opponent's revenge forgot Tom's strategy, and the 2 pushed all the way to the sprint circle. High Biscuit was weak in the follow-up and was slowly caught up by the large troops. This time, Xiaohong lost again, lost in her personality problems. When the master and boss came to ask him, he had not yet lost his temper. Black Vertat was his way of survival refined from the Black Horse Factory. But his anger is actually deeper. Late at night, when Xiaohong led the book that his father had left him and tried to throw it into the river, we understood that his anger came from the long heartbreak of being abandoned by his parents. He has no home, so he hates the world that can't accommodate him, and Xiaohong, who calms down, feels guilty. He went to find the old goods, stammered and asked him to borrow 10 yuan, and by the way, he tried to see the old goods in the name of repaying the money, and still wanted to keep him. He had been abandoned by his employer too many times. Unexpectedly, this time, he was not disappointed. The old man told Xiaohong in a fatherly affirmative tone. Then he took $20 out of his pocket and handed it directly to Xiaohong. Xiaohong suddenly couldn't speak, and almost shed tears. For a long time, he had almost forgotten the feeling of being respected, trusted and treated well. The next time he returned to the battlefield, he put away all the times and used the skills he had learned all his life to accompany the cookie to concentrate on his feet. His engrossed attention also gave the cookies motivation. When they came to the sprint lap, Little Red let go of the cookie and unleashed its potential. God, they are like red lightning, one by one surpassing the opponent by half a horse body, and then a horse body, who is bullied to the end, who has nowhere to go. And now, who is far ahead? Shouting, from the beginning of this battle, the Little Red Box Biscuits are invincible, they swept the western United States of the game, won 6 consecutive games, from no one to the world's attention, everywhere is the flower applause faded the big fall like a joke. The old goods see the business opportunity, with the biscuits everywhere to go out to speak, with inspirational stories to package the cookies into traffic stars, and even used his horseshoe as an autograph, play with peripheral products. But Tom, who has always loved horses, began to protest. He felt that the sea biscuit was a warrior, not a pet, and he was complacent, and the fluttering would only make her fall to the bottom again. He told the old goods. White Biscuit has not yet met a really powerful opponent, the champion that Tom showed the old man. The horse name is the Warrior, is the king of the East, 1 meter 8 tall, noble blood, bright hair color, and invincible. The old goods listened to this contrarian advice. Daigo Empowerment really enjoyed the cluster, but the vanity peak is the glory. So he decided to let the Cookie Challenge battle tactics come out, the national sensation. This is not only the little pony who does not know the height of the sky to challenge the national championship, but also the things that have always had regional prejudice. I don't know the Eastern media to point the flash at the rich merchants, he said. The sea biscuit, this pony is touching porcelain in the past. Does he not deserve such ridicule? The 3-person group who can endure the old goods decided to use heavy money as bait to hold a race with a prize of $100,000, the highest horse racing prize in the history of the country, which attracted the famous players in the East. But the rich merchants were still unmoved, people had money, and the game was held as scheduled. Under the national attention of this huge prize, Xiaohong should have won steadily, but in the final sprint stage, he did not notice that there was an opponent behind him on the right side who rushed straight up, and he reacted near the finish line, and it was too late, and the cookie lost to the other party by a margin. After the game, Tom questioned Xiaohong sternly, which asked the truth. It turned out that when Xiaohong was playing black boxing in her early years, her right eye was blinded by others. Tom, disappointed, a lying one-eyed dragon was actually not worthy of sports at all. I didn't expect it. When she told the old or just startled, but immediately showed a smile of understanding. He soothed Tom's emotions and told him not to give up, and Xiaohong could also know later. This sentence is exactly what Tom said to the old man a long time ago, in the frustration of life. There will always be a time to forget the original intention, and the real nobles are those who remind you of your original heart. As soon as there were 3 people, with sea biscuits to re-embark on the journey, the old goods began a national roadshow. Everywhere they went, they used the story of sea biscuits to give passionate speeches. Under the depressed economy, there were frustrated people everywhere, and the little red and sea biscuits that were often frustrated were the inspirational examples they needed most. The mood of the crowd gradually surged, and everyone urged the cadres